Guys, let's get into it. So today we're going to talk about what pays more, advisory or audit. This is a question I got from a subscriber that he sent me a DM. So if you have any questions, the best way to get your questions answered is follow me on Instagram and send me a direct message. I'm happy to make these videos for you guys. But now let's get into kind of what he wants to talk about. So his question is, what pays more, advisory or audit? Okay, so I feel like this is a very loaded question just because advisory means a lot of things. Like I'm not really sure what you mean by advisory. It could be, IT control consulting. It can be anti-money laundering consulting. It can be technical accounting consulting. It can be transaction advisory services. It can be so many different things. Management consulting. The consulting umbrella is very, very big, and just saying consulting, in my opinion, is very, very vague because especially now, the way the firms and the direction of public accounting firms are going, I think they're really heavily investing in their consulting practices just because, and I'm going to get into why, typically, and I will say this, no matter what, consulting positions usually pay more than audit just because the consulting practices are able to bill out their work at higher rates. So therefore, if you bill out at higher rates, the contracts, the engagements, they're usually paid at a higher rate per hour than audits are. And therefore, usually consulting or advisory positions usually pay more than audit. Is it okay? And here's where I want to make sure I kind of hone this down. It's going to be, sure, that advisory pays more than audit, but it's not going to be an amount that's going to substantially change your lifestyle. Let's say, for example, an audit associate makes $70,000. Maybe an advisory associate will make 83 or 85. 15K. I know that sounds like a lot of money, but to be honest with you, it's really not. It's not something that's going to drastically change your lifestyle. You're not going to be able to automatically have like a super better apartment or a super better car, or you're going to be able to do way more things on the weekends. Like, it's not going to really change your lifestyle that much. So I don't think focusing on like just a dollar amount instead of what you actually enjoy doing is going to help you long term. In my opinion, I'd rather you do something that you somewhat enjoy doing than just doing something that pays you more money. Again, if it's going to be lifestyle changing, I'm talking like you're going to make from 85,000 to 185,000. Okay, fine. That's a discussion I would have. But to say an extra 10, 15K is going to change your life, it's really not. Especially if you've been following in my channel, if you follow my videos, you know that I preach on avoiding lifestyle inflation and doing the best you possibly can to live within your means, because you never know when, in COVID, no one expected to ever take a pay cut. No one ever expected to lose their job. Like, certain things happen in life. And I feel like the less you can depend on your income, as far as, always needing to, as soon as you make more money, your expenses get higher. And then you make more money and your expenses get higher. So you never get out of this perpetual state of barely getting by. As soon as you start your career, you need to set a baseline foundation of, okay, what do I need to live a semi-comfortable life where, I still enjoy some free time on the weekends. I live in an okay, safe place. I have reliable transportation, and I eat, okay food. Once you're there, honestly, everything above that when it comes to getting paid, I'd rather have you do something day in and day out that you actually somewhat enjoy than something that you don't necessarily enjoy, but you're going to get paid an extra 10, 15K. I don't think it's worth it. Again, if it's life-changing money where it's maybe 100, 150K more, sure, maybe I can argue that, and maybe if someone asked me that question, I would be happy to talk about that. But as far as what pays more, advisory or audit, to be honest with you, I think you're going into it with the wrong mindset. I think you need to think about more so, what do you enjoy doing? Why not try both? In my opinion, sometimes I feel like even a weakness that I have in my career is that, I've always done audit. Yes, I did leave audit for 9 months, as you guys are all aware, but me being an auditor for as long as I have, 8 years now, there's a lot of things I didn't try, right? Thankfully, I did a rotation in transaction advisory, but there's a lot of weaknesses I do have that because I didn't try other things. And in my opinion, why not try both? Why not try a year or two in advisory or, consulting or whatever consulting branch you are intrigued by? And if it's not something that you enjoy or like, oh man, I'm not really sure I like this, then maybe go into audit, or vice versa. Try audit for a year or two. And if it's something you love, great. Stick it out as long as you need to, as long as you're fulfilling your personal and professional goals. But, there's so many different moves you can make in your career, and you don't need to have it figured out your first 2-3 years. You just don't. There's so many people that I've met, partners, people that are a lot more senior in their career that, their first 2-3 years, they kind of jumped around a little bit. They did different things and they learned a lot of different skills because they did that. So in my opinion, I think you need to think about more what you enjoy doing. What are you intrigued by right now? And try it. Just try it. You're not going to learn anything by not trying them. So my best advice would be to try them. But let's say, for example, if I were comparing, because a lot of people ask about this, if I were comparing transaction advisory services, or I think a lot of firms call it FDD, which is like financial due diligence. If I were comparing that to audit, 100% transaction advisories is going to pay you more per position. I don't think there's any question about that. Again, is it going to be somewhat lifestyle changing where it's like an extra 100K? No, it's not. It's going to be an extra maybe 10, 15 grand per position, maybe 20 if that. But again, if you enjoy FDD more, then yeah, definitely. Then I would way better you do that instead of audit. I can tell you from my experience doing FDD or transaction advisory, it was very fun, sexy work. I really enjoyed it. But at the end of the day, I did like the stability that audit gave me. I like that I knew where I was going to be at, a month in advance, essentially. I knew where my clients were going to be. I knew how my schedule was kind of going to look like. And that's something I didn't necessarily like about audit, transaction advisory, where I was kind of all over the place. So again, I think from a what pays more, I think you're asking from not the wrong point of view, but essentially, don't get me wrong, I think money is extremely important, right? But that being said, I think it's more important for you to enjoy what you do day in and day out, because work is such a big part of your life. So yes, I will say position per position, title by title, advisory will pay more than audit. But at the end of the day, I think you need to do something that you actually somewhat enjoy doing each and every day, because work is such a big part of your life. Then the second question is, which has better exit opportunities? I mean, it really depends on what you want to do. Again, it's this, as far as like what's a better exit opportunity. Some people, a better exit opportunity is having a more stable work life where they're able to come in at 9 and leave at 5, and that's it. And for them, that defines better. Is better maybe making more money, but you're working way more? Because just because, a lot of people say that, just because you're in private, you work less. Not necessarily. I've met a lot of people in my career that, they worked as much as people in public accounting sometimes. Maybe not to that extent, working the midnight shifts every now and then during busy season. But, I mean, for the most part, if you even it out during the year, audit's not busy all year. Like my summers are typically, a little slower, a lot more fun, a lot more things I'm able to do. And my, people in private, they are consistently, working late or whatever, right? People that I've known. So at the end of the day, maybe I work more than them at certain parts of the year. But if you look at the year in total, maybe sometimes it's not that different from people that work in private. So it really just depends on what you mean by better, what you want from your career. Again, I think there's good exit opportunities in both audit and advisory. In audit, it's really going to depend on, and I can speak from experience here, it's really going to depend on your network, who you know, who you've been able to talk to, the connections you've been able to make. Because, when you leave audit, you can somehow pivot into, typically audit leads you more into, taking more of a financial accounting role, whether it's, director of accounting or financial controller or assistant controller or, whatever that is. It's a little bit more accounting based. But, sometimes I do feel like a lot of the high performing auditors want to end up going into like more finance driven roles, and that's perfectly fine. But I really just think it depends on what you want to do and what you define as better. In my opinion, like if I were, let's say for whatever reason, I were to ever want to leave public accounting again, the only way I would leave if I got equity or some like stock options in a company that was growing, that was fast paced, that, they were making acquisitions, that they wanted to grow the business. That's the only reason, that's the only way I would even contemplate even leaving now, right? Just knowing what I know. And you can demand that at a certain point in your career when you have the skills, when you have the expertise in certain things. Again, I would never leave audit, but I'm just saying if I were to advise someone to do it at my level, I'd, start the conversation around stock options and getting equity in the company and certain things like that I wasn't ever privy to or knew about. Those are things that I would start asking about. Hey, where are you guys looking to go the next 2-3 years? Are you acquiring companies? When's the last time you had an acquisition? Where's the company direction going? What's the revenue now compared to 3 years ago? I would ask all these things before I would leave to any company now because of the position that I'm in. Again, exit opportunities it's all relative to me because it depends on what you want. Some people want a more stable life than they had in public accounting. So maybe having a more stable work hours is what's more important to them. Maybe it's having, again, growth opportunities or whatever it is, right? But I think it really just depends on what you want from your career. And as far as, I think we said what are the exit opportunities? Again, I mean, it really just depends what consulting type of work you do. If you do transaction advisory or FDD, that's going to be a lot more centered around finance roles. In my experience, I've seen people leave from transaction advisory to director of finance roles, director of FP&A, financial planning analysis, VP of finance, certain roles like that, as opposed to in audit. For the most part, it's typically you leave as a controller, accounting manager, assistant controller, director of accounting. So, if you do stay in audit, typically, and I'm not saying you can't not leave for a finance role, it's just not as common. And I think that's where you really need to leverage your networking skills, who you can meet, and really leverage the skills that you've even built when you're interviewing and saying, hey, although I've been an auditor for, this many time and I'm more financial accounting based, I can learn very quickly, or I've been able to, work on certain clients where I was more privy to the finance roles that they had. So it really just depends on how you leverage the skills you need. But again, I think when you're starting your career, to summarize this, try doing something or go into something that intrigues you just right off the bat. Try it out for a year or two, and I guarantee you these public accounting firms would much rather have you stay at the firm and you do something else in another line of business than you just leave completely. So try something out that intrigues you. Don't be so fixated on the money right now. I know it's very maybe easy for me to say at my position now, but I can tell you when I graduated college, I had nothing. So it was very, you would offer me an extra 10 grand. That was like $1 million to me, right? But don't look so much at the money right now. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you to take some job for free, but at the same time, if it's a 10K plus or minus difference, but you're going to end up doing something that intrigues you more, that you want to do, that you're more interested in, go that route, learn, develop, try it out for a year or two, and then see if it's something you want to continue to pursue, or maybe you want to do something else. I don't advise you do that, for the next 20 years, but your first 2 to 5 years in your career, honestly, guys, try things out, work, develop, learn. And as you continue to grow, as you continue to develop, as you continue to grow your skills, then you'll start figuring out things you want to do and be proactive about your career. Talk to people that have been in your position. Talk to people that have maybe left your firm or wherever you're at and see what positions they're at right now and ask them for a coffee. Ask them, hey, you started an audit, but now you're, a CFO. How'd you take that route? Like, how'd you go from being an auditor to a CFO? How'd you go from, IT controls to being the, director of IT audit at a company, whatever the case is. Be proactive about your career. Do things that intrigue you more. Learn, develop, and I promise you can't go wrong. All right, guys, it's going to be it for the video today. If you found value in this video, please make sure to smash the like button below. Till next time, work hard, dress well. Peace.